hello. And that was a bit too exciting, so okay, and breathe. And welcome to the Phillips Hue Lights podcast. I'm Adam, and alongside me is my long-term friend, Graham.
My name's Graham.
Okay, and we are the best of friends, aren't we, Graham?
Mm-hmm.
We've been having the most interesting conversations for the longest of times.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? And we often say, oh, it's a shame that no one else can hear us right now because they'll be loving it.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Podcasts are the new big thing, aren't they? They're the new radio.
Yeah, you see, the problem with radios is that if you wanted to listen to a show, you'd have to wait until a certain time, wouldn't you?
The way I like to explain podcasts, right, is to say a podcast is like a cassette.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got this cassette in your pocket.
Yeah.
No matter what clothes you're wearing, it's in your back pocket all the time, ready to put out into a cassette player.
Right.
That you also have on you all the time.
Okay, so that's a podcast. Shall we explain what the podcast is about?
I just did. It's like a cassette player in your back pocket.
No, our podcast. What's it about?
It's about Phillips Hue Lights, isn't it?
Yeah, but the interesting thing about our podcast is that it's only ever going to be 9 minutes long, isn't it, Graham?
Yeah, so about the same amount of time it takes to walk to a shop.
Yeah, I just find that the more a podcast goes on for, the more likely you are to get bored of it. I mean, this is just 9 minutes long, so I don't think people will be too bored. I mean, if you are, there's only 7 minutes to go, so it's nearly over.
Yeah. So I guess we should talk about Phillips Hue Lights.
Okay, and we should say right off the bat that you, Graham, you don't have any Hue Lights yourself, do you? You just know them from coming around my house.
Yeah, I'm still a bit on the fence when it comes to Phillips Hue Lights. But you've had them for years, haven't you, Adam? When did you first come across Phillips Hue Lights?
Oof, that's a intense question, Graham.
Is it?
So I remember the date. It was August the 13th, 2013.
Yeah.
And I was walking home from a night out or something and came across these apartments. And I was just looking up at the windows, as you do. Most lights were off. And there was a few, of the typical yellow and white ones. But there was this one window high up, and it had pink and blue lights that were ever so slightly strobing, and I was just stood there it must have been 10 minutes just trying to take it in, really.
Go on.
Yeah, thanks. And I vividly remember thinking, within the next 50 years, I know that every window in this apartment will have different coloured lights.
That was what? 8 years ago? Have you gone back to that same apartment to see if there's more coloured windows?
Oh, that building was demolished ages ago. But I have been noticing more and more coloured lighting in windows appearing. Now, if there's an apartment with 100 windows, I would say at least 5 of those windows now have coloured lighting.
Yeah.
I just really like ambient coloured lighting. It kind of makes me feel, like I'm in the world of Roadrunner.
What?
Blade Runner.
Oh, right, yeah. But what I don't get, Adam, is that coloured lights surely existed before Phillips Hue Lights, didn't they? What about Christmas lights?
What? Phillips Hue Lights are way more advanced than Christmas lights, Graham. Christmas lights are just like little LEDs, aren't they?
I don't know. What about that Alien film, Adam? You know, the one with the spaceship and the Ripley.
What are you on about?
And the cat.
Oh, Alien.
Do you remember at the end of that movie, the spaceship goes all red, doesn't it? And the voice is like warning, warning, warning.
Yeah, okay,
warning.
What's your point?
How did they do that before Phillips Hue Lights?
It was a movie, wasn't it? So they probably used a filter.
What filter?
I don't know, the red one.
Okay. The red light district. How did they do that before Phillips Hue?
Those are neon lights, Graham. Why are you going all anti-Phillips Hue Lights on me suddenly?
I'm not against it. I just don't think that Philips created coloured lights.
I'm not saying they did. Oh, you don't get it, do you? Look, when, that guy created the light bulb, everyone was like, it's not all that. Got candles. But
you've got one at the moment, haven't you, that changes colour based on what's happening on a TV screen.
Whoa. Let's not jump too far ahead, Graham. We'll cover that on a future episode.
I've got a question. Are we getting paid for this? Are Philips sponsoring us?
Absolutely not. I don't want them involved at all. If you see any emails from them, just delete them. I don't want them interfering, listening to every episode, trying to make suggestions like, can you talk about this? And I want this podcast to be a completely transparent, open, sincere discussion about Phillips Hue Lights.
I was looking up podcasts about Phillips Hue Lights, and there isn't one. We're the first.
Look, I think we're just ahead of the curbs. I think we're at that stage of the internet where they had Netscape Navigator. We're about there with regards to, home lighting systems. And there's a small minority of us that are saying, you don't understand the potential. There is so much, think beyond Netscape Navigator.
So you're saying that Philips have just scratched the surface of what's possible with home lighting systems?
I would even go as far to say they've just licked the surface.
Right.
We're getting to that point, aren't we, where we're going to start going into people's houses, and when we see one of those yellow, kind of white, yellow bulbs, you're just going to think, do I really know who this person is?
Okay. Just to remind you, there's just 1 minute left of the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Emails. Who's emailed in this? Oh, yeah, it's the first episode, isn't it?
How long is this series going to last?
I don't see it ending, because Philips keeps adding to the Philips Hue Light family. So there's always going to be something to talk about.
Oh, this episode feels rushed, Adam. We've not even explained that I'm not real yet.
You are real, Graham, but you're just me recording lines slowed down by 16%.
We can go a bit more into that next episode, can't we?
Nah. We need all the time we can get with a 9-minute podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should keep it focused on Philips Hue Lights.
Yeah.
What was your vision that you had the other day?
What? Oh, yeah, it was... I don't want this podcast to feel like you're in a conference and there's a guy on the stage talking about Philips Hue Lights. No, I want this podcast to feel more like you're going down the pub and a guy comes up to you and starts talking about Philips Hue Lights. But in a fun way.
Okay, I'm just exporting now.
Put it in Dropbox, yeah. I'll edit the show tonight.
Why don't we do a Patreon, Adam? Everyone does a Patreon these days.
Oh, here we go. Why can't you just do it because you enjoy it?
Well, I would argue that you could use that extra money to make the show even better. You could buy a new microphone to make the show sound better.
What's wrong with this microphone? It sounds fine. Sorry, I'm just being... You know when we were recording that show and he kept going on about you were putting down Phillips Hue Lights, and yet every time you've come round here you're always going on about how cool my lights look.
I like your lights. It's just more funny, isn't it? We don't want two people going on about how great Phillips Hue Lights are.
This isn't a comedy, Graham.
You mean it's a show?
Yeah.
You mean it's a serious... I'm not doing it then.
Come on.
I don't want to do a whole podcast about Phillips Hue Lights.
Graham, please, just...
Nah, look, sorry, I'm just not going to spend all this time on a podcast that I'm not enjoying.
So that's it. After one episode of the Phillips Hue Light podcast, it's done, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you could do it without me.
I'll pay you.
What with?
I'll find a way. There's Patreon.
You mean Patreon?
No, it's Patreon. You've just been saying that wrong all this time.